It's the best lecture I've ever had, Professor, honestly. You like a
So,
motivational speech, Doctor? Please let me know. I wanna see you talk, honestly. I'm really amazed.
Hello, everyone. I will be sharing with you a part of my online lecture earlier today. Online because of the pandemic, and as educators, we needed to adjust and adapt. The lecture was about the world we are living in and the struggles that we have, the experiences and the choices that we make. Now, this is an interpretation of Plato's Allegory of the Cave, one of the most celebrated topics about our desire to be enlightened and to be wise. Now, many people are fed up with trying to please everyone, of fulfilling other people's expectations, and of living in the world of ignorance. I hope that you learn from this lecture, and I hope that no matter how little, this guides you as you go along in this journey of ours. You've watched what is known as the most celebrated and probably most value-laden imagery of the kind of life that we're living in. And if you notice on the video that there are prisoners, and the prisoners are basically chained, legs, hands, and even their necks, which means that they couldn't actually move your head. Remember that this is an allegory, okay? This is an extended metaphor. And we will be discussing what is happening here. What is it that Plato wants us to know? If you notice, you have prisoners here and they couldn't move their heads. And whatever it is that they see on the wall, courtesy of the images and the persons traveling from this end to the other end, somehow they will have elephants, they will have plates probably, or tables carrying many other things. And all of these things are being reflected on the wall as shadows. These people believed that what they see, since they could not really see the actual thing, since they could not move their heads, what they see as shadows are actually real, the real things. They do not know anything. They only see the shadows. And they think that when they see, for example, a table here, they think that the shadow of the table is real. In fact, they also had a game. And what was that game? They had a game wherein the very first shadow to appear, because if you notice behind them, there will be a person probably carrying, let us say, a table. And then the next person behind that person carrying a table, let us say again in this example, is going to be carrying a chair. And then the next one behind the person carrying the chair would actually be, let us say, carrying a cup. So they had a game wherein the very first person who will be the first one to guess the very first image or shadow that will appear on the wall wins. So that is the kind of a game that we had. Let us say, for example, the first one appears is the table on the wall. So they will scramble. The very first one will say, that's a table. And the first one who will mention that will have 1 point. And probably they're playing up to 5 points. And anyone who has more points becomes the winner. And that is how they've spent their life. They would actually say, oh my God, you are my idol. How is it that you can already have those so many points? You are very sharp. You're very intelligent. So they always give rewards or probably an applause, or they look up to the person who always comes up first by naming the shadows. Eventually, one day, one person was released from the chain, and the person, for the first time, was able to look at the fire. He looked back and saw the fire. The first time that he saw the fire, of course, he was not used to the fire, to looking directly at the light, so his eyes got hurt. That is what Ibrahim was mentioning earlier. His eyes got hurt. And he couldn't really see. He was blinded temporarily. But he persisted. And when he was able now, after so many minutes, he was able to look directly into the fire. He said it made sense. What they were looking are not actually the real thing. What the shadows are not the real thing. They're nothing but the shadows. And these are just shadows of the things that were, that were being carried by the persons or whoever are carrying those things. And of course, because of the fire behind it. So he said, oh my God, I thought that everything was real. That was the very beginning of knowledge, okay, of being enlightened. And then he persisted. He looked around and he noticed that there is the walkway. He just looked around and around. And soon there came knowledge and the realization. He went out of the cave and he noticed that there was the sun. The same thing that happened to him in the cave, he looked at the sun and he was also temporarily blinded. But then he looked and finally he got to see his surroundings and of course illuminated by the sun. He looked at nature, he looked at the flowers, and now, upon looking at all those things around him outside, he came to an understanding that is better than knowledge. He came to a reality by reflecting. He came to a reality that is known as wisdom. He makes sense of everything around him. And then he realized that while he was enjoying that newfound reality, he realized that, hey, I have brothers there who are in the cave. They must see this. They must realize that what they were looking in the cave are nothing but shadows. They are false. They are nothing. They're not the truth. So what he did was he went back. But you see, what happened here is when he went back to the cave, he was not anymore used to the darkness. So he had a hard time. He was walking funny. And the guys, his brothers there, they were looking at him, my God, what happened to this guy? And he was trying to explain to them that, hey, this is not real. And they all started to laugh. And they all thought that he lost his mind. How could this be shadows? Those are real. And then he kept on insisting, no, unchain yourself. But of course, they wouldn't want to be unchained because they've been comfortable in that particular situation. They've been comfortable in what they were doing. If you are comfortable, then why would you risk? Why would you get out of it? People are uncomfortable with things that they do not know. People don't generally accept things or situations that they do not understand. And people, because they do not know how to react with things they do not understand, they easily get emotional. So what happened here was that when they realized that this person keeps on insisting and that person doesn't make sense, and they started plotting to kill the person. So the person escaped and went back. Now, I will be explaining what does it mean. We are people in the cave. In the greater society here, the kind of life that we're living in, I am in the cave. Haven't you noticed? This society of ours, not just this society, but all over the world, if you are unenlightened, if you don't pursue education, what will happen is that you will be believing advertisers. Last meeting, the very first meeting 2 days ago, I asked you, what is the purpose of a bag? You know what a bag is, right? A bag is supposed to be a repository. It's supposed to protect what's inside, papers, wallet, etc. Okay, that is what the purpose of a bag is. That is utility. A car is supposed to bring you from one point to the other. That is what its utility, that is its purpose. When a car was invented, precisely because there are long distances, and the car, with the invention of the wheel, should help us to travel faster and more efficiently. But let me go back to the bag. With the businesses like Louis Vuitton and Gucci's and Hermes, okay, and many other all these branded things, we are bombarded by advertisements saying that, hey, this is a limited edition. Hey, this will separate you from the others. Hey, you will have more confidence if you actually use this bag, and when you go to the mall, people will be looking at you and they will be jealous of you because you have a limited edition, very expensive bag. When you walk into the restaurant, you ask for a chair for your bag to put on because you need to protect your bag. You get angry and you get desperate and you get all sorts of emotion when something happens to your very expensive bag. Now you are protecting the bag instead of the bag protecting your stuff. Now you are living in the world of shadows. The same with the car. You are bombarded every year when there is a new car by limited edition car. Only the ones that are managed will be able to have this car because, hey, this is exclusive. The purpose of the car is for travel from point A to B, and yet your decision is being influenced by expectations of society that are nothing but shadows. Every decision that we make in this world, they are generally influenced by advertisers, by companies who would create shadows purposely in order to enrich themselves and in order to manipulate the minds of the people, taking them out of the reality. Examine yourselves. Examine yourselves. So what gives you confidence? What gives you that kind of an identity? Is it about material things? What are you after? Do you lose your confidence when you don't have all these things? You are pleasing people you don't know. You go to the mall with your Louis Vuitton bag and you are trying to please people who probably you don't even know. And then when you come back to your homes, you realize that it means nothing at all. When you start pleasing societies, expectations of societies, when you start focusing on things that are nothing but shadows in this world, then you become lost. And that is the reason why many people have problems, difficulties, challenges. Not because they cannot decide on their own, but it is simply because they've been influenced by the shadows or by the advertisers selling them stuff that do not really contribute to true meaning of existence. Now, look, when you become enlightened, enlightenment here means being educated. That is the reason why you're studying philosophy, and that is the reason why you're studying other courses as well. Because those courses, hopefully with your other professors, they make you realize what true knowledge is. The same with the fire here. It's not easy to become educated, by the way, as represented by the person who looked at the fire. It will blind you temporarily, difficult to see what's in the cave. The same with studying. Do you really think it is easier? It is easy to be listening to me? Do you really think that it's easy to be listening to a boring professor like me? If there is a choice between being with friends and sitting probably in my class, I would like to think you would want to be with your friends. If there is a choice between being in a party and making assignments in my class, I would like to think you will be in a party instead of doing some research papers in my class. But the point here is, as symbolized by the fire, education is not easy. Having an assignment, thinking about concepts, they're not easy. But as Plato mentioned, the moment you are able to go through it, the moment that you persist on making your assignments, on participating in my class, on studying, on reading, on progressing, the moment that you go through them, you will see differently the world around you. You become educated, and you will see how you are being manipulated by the different institutions around you. And you could actually live without being influenced by the shadows and by the false expectations of society. They can laugh at you, but you know better because you've experienced the truth. They can laugh at you, but you will know that they are laughing at themselves because of their ignorance and because they're living in shadows. To go higher, you need to get out of the cave. And when you get out of the cave, you pursue your master's probably, or you go into PhD. And it's not just the academic discipline. It's also about thinking about your experiences, meditating on your experiences. You attend conferences and seminars. You go into trainings, making sure that you improve yourselves. It is not easy, as mentioned in the cave here. But if you keep on doing that, you will reach a point that you will be different from the others because you are more enlightened than the others. And it will reach a point wherein you could actually say that you've seen the world as it truly is. But according to Plato, when you become wise, you will realize that you have a responsibility to educate. Now that you are educated, now that you are wise, now that you have seen, you have the obligation to go back and educate the ignorant. And you need to be patient, by the way. You need to be patient. Once you start educating those in the cave or the people who are criticizing you, you really need to have patience, because it is only by listening first that you can educate them. And of course, by your example. There will even come a time, by just learning from the allegory of the cave, that they will label you as somebody who has lost his mind. Why are you talking like that? What happened to you? Just because you got educated, you think that you can do this to us? What do you mean? My opinion is, my opinion. I am entitled to my own opinion. This is me. They would always say that. How can you say that you're better than me? And sometimes they would not even, talk to you, or probably even to the point of killing you. But Plato mentioned that you have responsibility, and that responsibility is to educate even to the point of death. Remember, for Plato, the purpose of life has nothing to do with the pursuance of money. Money is important, but what is more important is the quality of life through education, through enlightenment, through wisdom. Classmates, look at your prophets, look at our prophets, and even, for example, Jesus Christ. When they started teaching, what happened to the prophets? They were stoned. People didn't like them because they were telling the truth. Even for example, Jesus Christ, he was crucified. People started saying, crucify him, crucify him. When he started enlightening them, telling them about what to do and what not to do, giving them wisdom, instead of appreciating, what they did was crucify Jesus Christ. People will not accept you generally. Some will do, but expect that kind of a reaction. When you become different, when you started prioritizing wisdom over material things, because you knew that you're gonna die. For example, me. In the beginning, I like all expensive things. I even like them at this point. I love going to expensive restaurants. I love expensive bags. But the point here is, I came to a point that I knew that I will not bring them with me when I die. I knew that any material thing will actually lose its value. It can be destroyed, it can be stolen. And when that happens, well, it happens. I'm not going to cry over it. But many people become desperate and become so lonely when something happens to whatever valuable materials they have or they had. But classmates, remember this, okay, because it's already 3:55 and I have to stop here. Remember this, all of us are living in this cave. Examine yourself. Examine yourself. One, are you always trying to please the expectations of people around you? Second one, are you pursuing education, trying to do your best, trying to be enlightened, no matter how difficult it is, because that is the right thing to do? And third one, do you have the guts, the ability to withstand criticism because you believe it to be true? And of course, the fourth one is going to be, observe yourselves. Are you understanding enough to realize that not all people will grow as fast as you can? Or probably not all people will easily understand what you're doing as an enlightened person. That is why you need to be very patient and understanding when certain persons don't easily get what you are trying to explain. But the very fact that they're probably asking, it means that the path to wisdom and enlightenment is already beginning. And lastly, okay, in this particular lecture, responsibility. You, students of mine, all these lectures that I've been telling you, the Allegory of the Cave, and all the other lectures that probably you will learn for the entire semester, not just in my class, but also in other classes, in your other subjects, it is not just for you. You have every obligation. Once you've digested them, you have every obligation to educate other people, no matter what, and regardless of the situation and circumstance. Thank you. Do you have questions? Do you have questions?
No questions.
Thank you, Doctor.
It's the best lecture I've ever had, Professor, honestly. It's like I'm watching Gary Vee right now.
Thank you very much for your kind words. Thank you so much.
If you like a motivational speech, doctor, please let me know. I wanna see you talk. Honestly, I'm really amazed.
Yeah, honestly, we want to hear your speech.
Thank you. I've been a teacher through and through. I think I'll die poor, but I will die as a teacher. Okay.